we work so you can play. MiniWarGaming's Beat the Cooler batrep!
Hey there, MiniWarGamers. Owen here from MiniWarGaming with Dan again. This time, Warhammer Fantasy 1750 between my Dark Elves and his Orcs and Goblins. And by Orcs and Goblins, I mean that one Orc and a bunch of Goblins. So stay tuned for the armies.
I broke down!
Yep, he couldn't do it. Also, if you want to get your own Orcs and Goblins or Dark Elves, go to MiniWarGaming.com. Click the link below, that's what I'm trying to say. At MiniWarGaming.com/challenge to play us.
So here we have the Dark Elf force with 2 Hydras, a Cauldron of Blood battle standard bearer. We've got 20 crossbows with shields and a banner, and another 20 crossbows with shield and foe command. And then a unit of 26 spearmen with full command, an assassin with an extra hand weapon and touch of death. We've got a dreadlord with the fun stuff and a sorceress level 2. And I guess I should actually explain. The dreadlord has a the Crimson Death. He's got the Pendant of Calith and blood armor. So he gets +1 wound for every wound he causes in hand to hand, a reversed ward save, and he's always strength 6 that can't be modified. And that is the Dark Elves. Then we've got the Goblins. They have the giant walking spider. I totally can't recall its name right now. A group of wolf riders. Just plain. Group of goblin archers. 20 of them. Then he's got 12 more goblin spider riders, and they've got full command. 50 goblins. 50 more goblins with full command. Goblin thrower and 3 trolls. Then he's got 2 level 1 goblin shamans with sneaky stabbing, a battle standard bearer goblin, and he's using an orc level 2 or level 4 shaman as his general, and he's on a boar. And that is the goblin army. And now we get over to the deployment, and I believe that and we forgot, he's got a big pile of fanatics. And then after the deployment here, Dark Elves did win the roll-off to deploy first. And the spells we got here on my level 2 Fire Mage are Fireball and the Burning Head. And of course the Goblins have Sneaky Stabbing, and Dark Elves will get +1 to deploy. But anyway, here's the deployment. Pretty straightforward. I plan to shoot at him and then walk him down, which is kind of the usual strategy I have, and with the Hydras on the flanks to block anything from getting into the center core or to rush forward. That is the Hill of Skulls. Anyway, roll a d6 on a 1, your guy dies. On anything else, you get +d3 to a random stat. And that is the shrine that lets you channel up to 4 dice, 3 6s being a miscast. And we roll off. Dark Elves win the roll off, so they will get to go first. And first thing, Cauldron gives the unit of Spearmen a 5-up ward save, and the Dreadlord is of course attached to that unit. And they have the Banner of Swiftness, so they get an extra inch movement, and then they march up, right up beside the pillar there. The Hydra marches up. The crossbows just move forward, getting off that little hilltop there and walking a little bit more into range. And the sorceress is attached to that unit, and the other crossbows move up as well. And then this Hydra runs off, getting on top of the hilltop there. And the Cauldron of Blood, being unable to march, just kind of creeps along behind the army, keeping the battle standard. Magic phase begins. Dark Elves get 5. And they actually channel, but the Goblins also channel. Now I try to cast the Burning Head from her in a straight line across a number of goblin units into the catapult, but he does throw everything at it and does dispel it. But then I cast the Power of Darkness, and they get d3 more, so I get 3 more power dice, and now I'm going to use Fireball right onto his character, who's standing between the 2 units. And it goes off. This is the level 2 version, I believe. Or no, just the level 1. No, level 2, 2d6. So I get 2d6 hits, and I get a bunch of wounds, and he tries to look out, sir, and he fails them, and he would have died. But we did realize that he has a Dispel scroll, so we let him take that back. He dispelled the spell instead, so he lives. But then the crossbows shoot at his commander now, who's once again still not in there, so they go firing away, but they're at a big minus there to hit. But they still get tons of shots, so they hit with a bunch, and he tries to look out, sir, and he fails to look out, sir, and he goes down because he didn't give his general any equipment other than the boar. So it only had a 5-up, and against their armor piercing, he didn't really have a chance to get out of there. Now he's rolling his panic checks because the unit was destroyed. He passes all those, and we're into Goblin's turn 2, or Goblin's turn 1 rather. The troll, though, it fails its stupidity test, and they stumble an inch forward, unable to do anything. And now he's rolling for animosity for his goblins to make sure they don't start killing each other. And he rolled a 1 on 1, so they have animosity, but everything else is okay. And the animosity for this unit of goblins is they have to charge the nearest unit, which is definitely unfortunate. Now he's declaring his charges. He's going to try and charge the Hydra. I think he decides not to do it. Oh no, he does charge, but he fails the charge, which is what he wanted. So he moves up an inch, and the other goblins, they charge up, and they actually make the charge on a 10. So they charge right into my Dreadlord and his Spearmen. And then we realize 1 second later that he's got all of those Fanatics, so it backs up. But the first Fanatic only goes 7 inches, so it doesn't quite make it to the Dark Elves. The second Fanatic, he then tries to throw at me. Now they've got to make 8. He's got to roll an 8 here in order to hit my unit, but he only rolls a 3. So it only moves up 3 inches. And then the third Fanatic that they throw out, then he decides he's going to throw it into the back of that one, and so it kills both of them. So they kill each other, and this unit rolls in, but they only hit 1 Fanatic this way, so they still take 2d6 hits, but they only roll a 3, so he only loses 3 goblins from that. And from there, he moves up with his spider, just the Arachnarak. I can't pronounce it. Anyway, I remembered what it was called, but can't pronounce it. It moves up. The Goblin Spider Riders, they march up on the flank there, trying to get a little bit further up, coming to turn in with their poisonous mounts and just speed, really. And the Wolf Riders, they run up. They're incredibly fast. They've got a huge amount of movement. So they come flying up and then swing in, because they're going to go and try and kill all my crossbows while my army's tied up trying to fight the 200 or 100 goblins. Magic phase begins. Dark Elves do not channel, and neither does he, because he did fail the other charge, so that caster won't be able to do anything. He tries to do sneaking stabbing on himself, but the shroom that his guys have to eat, he does eat it, so it fails the spell, but he doesn't take a wound doing it. The crossbows, or the goblin archers, they try and fire on the Hydra, and they get +1 hit because he is a large target, and they get a couple hits, and they even do a few wounds. I fail one, and then I fail my regeneration, so they do a wound to the Hydra already. So it's down to 4, and now the spider has archers on there as well, and they fire at the other Hydra, but not quite as easy to hurt this one, and it does fail its save, but it makes its regen. And then he throws his Doomdiver catapult onto my sorceress, but it's really the unit, but it scatters, and then he can only correct it 1 inch, so it hits right into the unit of Spearmen, and so he does that. So it gets d6 hits on them, 3 of them get hit, he does 2 wounds, but they have a 5-up ward save, so they're fine. And now he attacks back, the fight here begins. Does he want to challenge? No, he does not, and I do, so my Dreadlord challenges, and the assassin appears in that unit, and so he sends off his goblin boss in the unit to fight the Dreadlord, and the assassin goes after his battle standard bearer because they're in base to base, and he gets a bunch of hits, and he does get an instant death with his touch of death, which kills that goblin right there. The other fight here begins between the Dreadlord and the goblin big boss. He gets all of his hits, wounding on 2s because he is strength 6. The other roll there was for nets, because now everything is -1 strength, but the Dreadlord is unmodified. He's always strength 6, so it didn't matter for him, but the rest of them it does matter. And so the fight here begins, swinging back and forth. I do a few wounds to him, he does a few wounds to me, but I do end up doing more, I believe. Yeah, because I make my save right there. So goblins have to do a leadership, but he does have more rank, so he is still stubborn. And I was debating here moving up on the flank there to get more models into base, and I decided rather keep them in the back and have more ranks to eventually break them down. But here we are at the end of turn 1. It's not looking too good for the goblins, but he's okay with that. He knows he's still got tons of models, but the goblins in the center here are tied up with my general, and he has lost his general and his battle standard bearer. The trolls and spider are still alive though, so he definitely will be able to slow us down. Stay tuned though for part 2 and see how this battle concludes.